for May 3rd, 2022. We will start with the roll call.
Mr. Bowman?
Here.
Mr. Greeno?
Here.
Mr. Hellman? Mr. Niemeyer? Mr. Palmer? Mr. Russell? Mr. Slough? Here. Ms. Warnicki?
Here.
Mr. Weisner?
Here.
And Mr. Wobser?
Present.
So Mr. Palmer and Mr. Russell informed me that they would not be at tonight's meeting. We have two other council people in the council chambers. I'm not sure what they're doing, but they need to be. Will you ask them to join us, please? Guys, we just called the roll call. Are you here?
Here.
We ask Mr. Niemeyer to step in also, please.
He's looking for a pen. He's here.
We just called the roll call. Thank you. So back to Mr. Palmer and Mr. Russell contacted me to let me know that they would not be tonight. Ms. Warnicki.
I'd make a motion to excuse Councilman Russell and Councilman Palmer.
Second, Mr. Greeno. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. They are excused. Mr. Wobser, do we have any acceptance or changes to tonight's agenda?
Yes, we do. We've got replacements ordinance 2022-37 legislation section for the West Lincoln Street Storm Sewer and Washington Street Storm Sewer funding source. We're moving, I think we're striking out a project number and changing it. That is the only change there on that ordinance, which is 2022-37.
Is that in the form of a motion?
And make a motion to add that to tonight's agenda.
Second, Mr. Slough. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Thank you. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Thank you. I will now entertain a motion to accept the previous minutes. Mr. Slough. Second, Mr. Baumann. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. They are accepted. We have no proclamations, recognition, or retirement resolutions, no petitions, oral communications, or written communications this evening. Reports of municipal officers and departments.
Officer shareholders disclosure form from the Ohio Department of Commerce, Division of Liquor Control for Baker's Cafe LLC, located at 408 South Main Street, Suite B in Findlay for a D2 liquor permit. A check of the records show no criminal record for those who applied.
Mr. Wobser.
Make a motion that no exception be filed.
Second, Mr. Slough. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Go ahead.
Board of Zoning Appeals minutes for February 10th, 2022.
Questions or comments? Minutes to be filed.
Traffic Commission minutes for April 18th, 2022.
Questions or comments? Minutes to be filed.
A letter from City Engineer Kalb regarding the regarding the 2022 annual street resurfacing and curb repairs, contract B for asphalt, project number 328-20500.
Mr. Wobser.
Just a quick question, Jeremy. What you said? We got the highs and the lows. What was the bid that was accepted with M&B? The number?
I don't have the paper in front of me, but if 550-ish.
550-ish?
Yeah, because so I appropriated 548, but on the first appropriation, I appropriated a little bit more because we weren't sure on alternates yet, so I have enough money to cover. So with this 548 that I'm asking for appropriation, I have enough to cover their contract.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
A letter from City Engineer Kalb regarding the West Lincoln Street Storm Sewer 355-21700 and Washington Street Storm Sewer 355-12100 funding source correction.
Mr. Wobser.
Just to, Jeremy, real quick. This is just taking money back into general fund, then putting it back in sewer, and then taking it out of the restricted fund, correct?
Yep, that's just, yeah, putting it back in the sewer, out of stormwater, because
All right,
they're
so we're
stormwater
just-
projects.
We're just simply shuffling shuffling money around.
Correct.
All right, thank
Yes.
you.
Any other questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
City Planning Commission agenda for May 11th, 2022.
Questions or comments? Agenda to be filed. Committee reports, we have none. Legislation, we'll start with resolutions.
First reading for Resolution 13, 2022. A resolution approving the expenditures made by the Auditor's Office on the attached list of vouchers which either exceed the purchase order or were incurred without a purchase order, exceeding the statutory limit of $3,000, all in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 5705.41D.
Mr. Slough.
I would move for adoption of Resolution 13-2022.
Second, Mr. Hellman. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the resolution say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer? Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Weisner?
Aye.
And Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted. Ordinances.
Third reading for ordinance 2022-26, an ordinance appropriating and transferring funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Greeno.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2022-026.
Second, Mr. Slough. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer. Mr. Slough.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Weisner.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Bowman.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Second reading for ordinance 2022-034, an ordinance vacating a certain portion of an existing road right-of-way of McLean Drive, the very southern end of the roadway in the cul-de-sac area, hereinafter referred to as the McLean Drive right-of-way vacation in the city of Findlay, Ohio. First reading for ordinance 2022-35, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Findlay, Ohio to enroll the city of Findlay in the Bureau of Workers' Compensation Group Retrospective Rating Plan and declaring an emergency. First reading for ordinance 2022-36, an ordinance appropriating and transferring funds and declaring an emergency. First reading for ordinance 2022-37, an ordinance appropriating, and transferring funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Wobser.
Make a motion that council's statutory rules be suspended and this ordinance be giving its second and third reading due to the fact that we're just shuffling money around from one account to another.
Second, Mr. Greeno. All those in favor of suspension of the rules say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer. Mr. Slough.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Weisner.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Bowman.
Aye.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
The rules of council have been suspended, and the clerk will give the ordinance its second and third reading.
Ordinance 2022-37, ordinance 2022-37.
Mr. Greeno.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2022-037.
Second, Mr. Weisner. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Niemeyer. Aye. Mr. Slough.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Weisner.
Aye.
Mr. Wobser.
Aye.
Mr. Bowman.
Aye.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
And Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted. Oh, I'm sorry. Any old business? Any new business? Mr. Hellman.
I just have a quick question. I wondered whether or not the law director was going to make any comment about these packets that we received. Okay. Thank you. I won't either then.
Any other new business? Hearing none. Oh, Mayor. Mr. Martin.
Good evening, everyone. Just as a heads up, as you all are pretty aware of, we had a storm come through here recently this evening. So it came on very quickly. We usually have a pretty good heads up from the National Weather Service, and we have great communication with the Sheriff's Office as well as the EMA and fire departments. And it came on quicker, and it was not anticipated to do what it did. So we do have the street department and other departments out cleaning up some debris. We do have a few trees down. One in particular is actually on a house, and it is in an unsafe situation. So the street department is out there taking it down, but there will probably have to be a contractor come out and take care of that tonight. So there'll be a PO to follow. But in this unsafe situation, we need to address that tonight. So just as a heads up, that'll be something. We usually obviously like to do that ahead of time, but in this situation, it's warranted to address it tonight. So, but other than that, I think we weathered pretty good of what we assessed driving around tonight so far. So, all right, thank you.
If anybody's missing a trampoline, I know where one is. Just get a hold of Councilman Niemeyer.
Hopefully not in any power lines, because that's what caused the terrible power outage earlier. I will be very quick. Yes, I want to give a shout out to all of our crews and police and fire. You know, as soon as the storm rolled in and we're getting the alerts and calling each other and talking to the sheriff, you know, our teams run out into the storm to start spotting and keeping an eye and are running all over the place. So it was very interesting to watch them all in work, and then a group of us that were all here to, you know, hunker down in the basement together, and it was loads of fun. No campfires or kumbaya or s'mores, which was kind of disappointing, but I typically prefer snacks. I just wanted to let you guys know one thing that we were made aware of this week is that we received funding for Greenway Trail Part 3, which will be from 236 out to Riverbend Park. So that's been part of our kind of multi-year plan to get that connected. So that's exciting news, something that we continue to work on, and so we'll have more information as we get details on that. Before you all leave, I have more Findlay Forward pens and little cards. We are making our final push to get folks engaged in this process. We're 166 people short as of kind of my early numbers to get to 1,000 people, which is our target. So please help continue to get that message out there. The survey is available. If you have a group of people that you want to do a small meeting in the box, I have a couple of those left as well. But please I have some pens and some little cards that have a QR to be able to complete the survey, but continue to encourage folks to participate in that process. I think that is it from me. Any questions or items?
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Can you let us know what the amount of that grant was for the trail?
Jeremy?
Or are you not allowed to?
Oh, no, I don't. I just don't know off the top of my head. Jeremy runs the numbers on that one.
Right.
He just told me this morning and I stole his thunder because I was like, I like good news. So.
That's great news, I think.
Off the top of my head, I think it was about 845,000. So ODOT's going to be covering 95% of the project. So up to 845,000.
Congratulations,
Thank
thank you.
Will you get us that exact amount? Because the courier's in the room and they'd probably like to know that.
One other thing, just while I'm mentioning it, I know we sent you guys an email a couple weeks ago regarding Spring Lake and a notice that had gone out to those customers that City of Findlay was going to be taking over their billing. We're working with the EPA to communicate back to them. That was sent out without the EPA or the City of Findlay's approval. We are not taking over billing of that system yet. As you all know, we still have a couple of steps in getting that system up to our standard and getting it all kind of maintained before we would look at taking that over and doing any potential billing. So we'll keep you up to date, but we're still working on what the communication back to the citizens needs to be on that in case you get any questions.
Any other new business? Mr. Kalb.
My memory must not be that good anymore, but it's $823,624.
Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you.
Any other new business? Mr. Wobser.
I would just apologize to President Harrington for having people here late. That was my fault. The Strategic Planning Committee meeting up on the third floor ran long, and so we got to you late. Mr. President, we beg your forgiveness.
I'll think about it. Any other new business? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Slough, second Mr. Hellman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjournment say aye. Any opposed, nay. We are adjourned.